This is it. In just 1 month, Tesla will be launching their paid commercial Robotaxi program in Austin, and the battle will begin with Tesla going head-to-head with Waymo and Uber. The war of words started yesterday with ex-Waymo CEO John Krafcik fighting back against Elon Musk's comments that it will cost Waymo way more money. Today, we'll do a deep dive comparing Waymo and Tesla. Waymo just announced they are now providing more than 250,000 fully autonomous paid rides every week. We'll look at how many cars they have, how much they cost, and that Google CEO Sundar Pichai just said they plan to offer personal ownership in the future. Second, we'll watch several more videos from China with users testing Tesla's full self-driving. Can the car drive without headlights at night? Can the car now recognize traffic police hand signals? And how does FSD compare to its 5 competitors there? We'll ask that question to Hans Nelson. Welcome, Hans.
Thanks for having me, Herbert.
As always, I reserve as many videos as I can about FSD and Robotaxi to you. You have a good understanding what's happening here. So let's start off with this war of words that's happening. So we know that in June, Tesla's launching Robotaxi in Austin. And actually, Uber and Waymo have partnered in Austin. So you would use the Uber app, but you can then select they have very little cars there. We'll find out how many exactly. So this is a Tesla Robotaxi. They're going to use the Model Ys versus the Waymo Robotaxi. This is what they look like still, despite all these years. Heavily outfitted. Both will be competing against each other in Austin this June. Yeah. And then you've got, one
of those things definitely looks like you're going to be way safer than the other one.
Which one? I would say it's this one because I'll go to the one that has these.
I know I agree. The Waymo looks like a self-driving car. It also looks dumb. Like those two things kind of go together, but maybe that, gives you a little bit more confidence as a customer to get in it. But the proof will be in the pudding when people try the different systems and like, wow, this actually drives safely. And I think the look of the Teslas is definitely a benefit long term. I think it will take a little bit of getting used to at first, but there are a couple of other much more important differences between the networks that we'll talk about as we move forward.
Mm-hmm. So we're going to see it's head to head. This is great, actually. I'm glad that in Austin we're going to see head to head, not just one versus the other. So yesterday, these war words. Elon started it, I guess, when he said Waymo money. Ex-Waymo CEO John Krafcik came back and he replied this. He said, response to Elon saying that Waymo's cost more money, that Tesla has never competed with Waymo. They've never sold a robotaxi ride to a public rider. They've failed utterly and completely at this for each of the 10 years they've been talking about it. In the long run, the cost of sensors has a trivial cost per mile impact over the useful life of a robotaxi, while also providing massive quantifiable safety benefits. It's just like what you almost said here. That's him referring to the cost. So just a reminder to everybody, Elon said this. He said this at the earnings call. The issue with Waymo's cars is it costs way more money, but that is the issue. The car is very expensive, made in low volume. Teslas are probably cost 25% or 20% of what a Waymo costs and made in very high volume. So ironically, we're the ones to make the bet that a pure AI solution with cameras, and what do you have? The car actually will listen for sirens and that kind of thing. It's the right move. And Waymo decided that an expensive sensor suite is the way to go, even though Google's very good at AI. That's what he said. And then Krafcik, I just read to you what he said. It says here, well, after 10 years of undelivered promises, it seems pretty rational for those watching to be data and evidence bit driven. There's still a lot of promises, still no Tesla liability for FSD driving performance, and still no universal robotaxi service.
Well, Waymo doesn't have a universal robotaxi service either. They have a robotaxi service that operates in Chandler, Arizona, and San Francisco, and soon to be Austin. That's not necessarily universal. These comments to me are funny on a number of levels. Part of, is it Travis, did you say? What was his? Krafcik?
John Krafcik.
John. So John's comments they remind me a lot of the type of rhetoric that you used to hear out of Blockbuster upper level management, when Netflix had come onto the scene and everyone's like, hey, is Netflix going to be a competitive threat to you? No, it's not going to be a competitive threat to us. No, it's not going to be a competitive threat to us. And they don't have any locations. How are they going to rent these movies to everything? Oh, it's going to be too expensive to send people DVDs through the mail. Oh, it's not having that big of an impact on our thing. And then eventually Netflix turns on video streaming and Blockbuster is instantly dead. And those are, just because they're not competing with you head to head using the same strategy that you're using does not mean they are not competing with you. And that is the situation that we have here between Waymo and Tesla. And when you even look at the strategy that Waymo has for Austin, it already basically admits that Tesla's going to have the advantage. The reason that Waymo is partnering with Uber in Austin is because they don't have the ability to put enough cars on the road to reach the scale necessary to provide people with a high quality service where they don't have to wait for the car forever. And so what's going to happen is they're going to have, 5% or 10% of the cars that they need to service the Austin area. And then the rest of the cars are just going to have to be Ubers. And so will you be able to pick, like, I want to ride a Waymo in Austin? Well, you can ask for it. Maybe you'll get it, maybe you won't. Or maybe you can get it, but you're going to have to wait 10 extra minutes to get picked up. That's just not going to actually work as a service and at scale. You certainly can't do that then across the entire United States. So those, like, they've already basically admitted that they're going to struggle to reach the type of scale to saturate a market and provide a high quality ride hail service. He can say that, yes, the cost of the sensors is not a factor in the cost of the Robotaxi over its lifetime. That may be true. It really isn't that big of a deal when you talk about something that could potentially earn hundreds of thousands of dollars in revenue, but it's still a big problem up front because you've got to pay to get those things on the road. And if Tesla can put a Robotaxi on the road that costs them 25% of what yours costs them, that means that they have 75% less cost to actually build the fleet than you do. Oh, and also Waymo, you don't know how to build cars. So who's going to build these cars for you? You're going to have to go partner with somebody else. And right now, there is no tangible plans that Waymo has with any manufacturing partner that has the possibility to scale into the hundreds of thousands of units per year number, much less the millions of units per year. And Tesla does have that scale already. And so it really depends on, what your assumptions are around how long it's going to take to fully commercialize this technology. If you think that it's such a hard problem to solve that no one will solve it, including Tesla, for the next 10 years, then maybe Waymo has the time to figure out all of those scale bottleneck issues. But if artificial intelligence applied to autonomous vehicles is able to do the same types of performance leaps that we've seen it do in other areas like language, where, chatbots kind of exist, but they suck in 2020, 2021, and then poof, ChatGPT comes out, and then holy smokes, they actually work and they work good, and like they take the whole world by storm. That is what the foundational technology that Tesla is using to build their robotaxi network is built on. Tesla has a lot of confidence that they can roll that out this year, and that over the next 12 to 15 months that they can work out all of the kinks. And then once all of the kinks are worked out, then they're already producing literally millions of cars per year that can then operate as robotaxis, not just in a couple of cities, but potentially all around the United States. And so these arguments, they're really, they just don't stand up to scrutiny. And I think that both, like, if you look at their actions and not just their words, that both Uber and Waymo's actions speak very loudly that they are strategically in a tough spot and they are afraid for their future.
Yeah, I think you made a couple of very, very good points. That Waymo needed to partner with Uber because if somebody ordered a car they can't provide an autonomous car. They have, and I'll show you the numbers here. They have less than 300 cars in Austin right now. Probably that's the max that they'll ever do. But you know what's surprising to me is that all these years, you see the LiDAR still massive. I mean, you think that by now they would have been shrunk a little bit. The cost would have gone down. You see that they've not gone past, let's say, some people are thinking they have 1,000 cars, maybe 2,000 cars. Regardless, 2,000 cars is so tiny. Like you think by now they would have spent that money. And so your point that if his point about how much money costs to run is going to be trivial over the course of a lifetime, it's per mile it costs, then right, how are you going to get 1 million cars? Let's say 10,000 cars. 10,000 cars times
Google would definitely
$100,000.
have to put up
Borrow
a
money.
giant load of cash in order for them to scale.
Yeah.
So
this is Elon's
and let me
comment
go
back.
Just for a second to the comment that I made about the Waymos do look safer because they have all that bulbous, it looks terrible, but it also looks safer. And I think that will be somewhat of an initial impediment for people to get over. If they have ever experienced a Waymo, they might prefer the Waymo because they're going to assume that it's safer. If they've never experienced either one, it's not going to be an issue, which is going to be the vast majority of consumers when they try, because there's only 250,000 rides per week isn't insignificant, but there's a lot of people, and those 250,000 rides, that's probably the same people over and over and over again, and they're pretty much all located in a couple of places. So the vast majority of consumers in the United States will never have experienced a Waymo. They won't have a preference one way or the other. For the other ones, would you be willing to try it for literally half the cost? Would you just try it once? Yes, you might be a little bit more skittish about, is it going to be safe enough? But would you try it? And then once you've tried it and it gets you there safely, will you try it again? Because heck, it's half the cost.
And people in China saying that Tesla cars, FSD, is so much safer. It feels safer the way it drives. And so once you've had one Tesla drive, you'll go, okay, yeah, it's actually safer the way it drives.
Because it feels so much more human, and a Waymo with all those sensors and all that complicated human written C code is just never going to feel natural like a Tesla will feel, because it is driving using the same, architecture that you drive with, the neural nets and the cameras.
So Elon, of course, said this in response to that: Waymo needs way more money to succeed, way more money. So as we said earlier, Waymo has 700 cars, okay? And 300 of which are in San Francisco. So that's what they have. And so how many do they have in Austin? Maximum 400, but they have 7 cities. So let's say 100 cars. That's all it is. It really is very, very minimal. Let's say they do have 1,000 or 2,000 because they plan to buy that many. Great. That's 2,000. We'll see what Tesla does. I know the Tesla starts with 10 to 20 in the first day, but we'll see what happens by the end of this year. So
since they're launching with Model Ys, they could literally, they produce thousands of Model Ys a week out of Austin. Yeah. And so if they allocated 1 week's worth of production to Model Ys for Austin, they can do 2 or 3 or 4 times as many cars as Waymo has in its entire fleet, just for one market. Those are just big differences in numbers. And if you recall, I think James Dalma had said that it would take about 10,000 cars to saturate the Chicago ride-hail market to a very high level. Yep. And if you say that, Austin's a smaller city than Chicago by a significant margin. So, maybe it'll take 5,000 or 7,500. Either way, you're talking about a week to 2 weeks of production out of the Austin, Texas Gigafactory. And, how long is it going to take Waymo to do that based on the run rate? We can cherry pick what data that it is. We're going to look back and see. Waymo's going to say, hey, they've offered 0 paid Robotaxi rides. Okay. Waymo has produced less than 1,000 autonomous vehicles, and Tesla ships them every day. So yeah, it's going to be fun to watch this play out. And the thing is, if you want to arbitrarily say, okay, they haven't offered any paid rides, maybe that's technically true, but you can still get in the car and you can experience FSD and you can know
Yeah.
that it actually can drive itself. Like, yes, have they worked out all of the logistical details around that? Not quite yet, but that's coming soon. And so you can look at and have a high confidence that yes, they can drive themselves autonomy. They can offer a ride hail service because when I ride around in the car that I own, it pretty much does that already.
Very good points. Okay, so let's go through some stats here. Waymo did publish this just yesterday. It said we're now providing more than 250,000 fully autonomous paid rides each and every week. The Robotaxi future is here and is powered by a generalizable Waymo driver. That's what they said. I'm going to turn this down. Yeah, so San Francisco, Los Angeles, Phoenix, Austin. More cities coming soon. Yeah. So that's 250,000 is a lot. That's a fully autonomous paid rides. That's according to Omar, he calculated more than 1 million driverless Waymo rides are now taking place every month in the US, right? 35,000 rides per day, 700 cars. That's 50 rides per day, per car. 50 rides a day for 24 hours. That's one ride every 30 minutes or so. And they probably increased to 1,000 to 2,000 cars at this point. So this is a good summary of the differences. Waymo founded in January 2019. Tesla AI started in June 2016. First driverless rides in October 2020. 11 years and 9 months to go driverless. So it took them a long time to get there. First version shipped January 2017. Andrej Karpathy, FSC beta, launch in October 2020. First driverless rides expected June 2025. So 9 years to go driverless. Good summary. But this idea that Waymo is so far ahead, well, they started a long time beforehand. And that's part of the reason why they committed to LiDAR was because they started in 2009 when there was no such thing as neural nets and
AlexNet had not yet occurred. And, that's kind of a pivotal moment in the development of artificial intelligence.
So once they put in that bet and they started going that route, they couldn't really switch back. So
they could have, they just chose not to.
Good point. That's right. 4 Chinese car companies decided to realize, Tesla's got the right path. They switched a year ago. These guys are being stubborn. So it relies on pre-mapped 3D maps of its operational areas to function. You have to go and pre-map an area. $180,000 per car. That's an estimate. We don't know what the real number is, but it only costs close to $50,000 for Model Y. That's the difference. So
I just want to make a comment real quickly too on this. This really is a demonstration of the uniqueness of Tesla and what it means to have a deeply technical CEO who has founder mode capability to say, this is the direction that we're going to go and full speed ahead. Because if you get a committee of engineers together, every single time you're going to get at least some, if not the majority of that committee of engineers are going to say, we need to use LiDAR because it's going to be safer. Yes, it's going to cost more. Yes, blah, blah, blah. Like as engineers, we just like these idealistic, perfect technologies and solutions, and we'll always want more. And that's just like going to be the bottoms up message. And there's not going to be that many people who have the foresighted ability to look at AlexNet in 2012 when all of a sudden neural nets were able to recognize images and say, hey, if we just play that forward far enough and follow along with Moore's law, we're going to be able to do that for video. And it's going to be so good that if we can do that for video, that we're then going to be able to train an artificial intelligence driver based on that. And we're not going to need LiDAR, that our vision cameras can provide us with every single piece of data that we're getting from our LiDAR cameras. Yeah. And of course it can work because humans can do it. Like that is, some engineers will make that calculus, but inside of an organization where you've got thousands of engineers, the ability of that cohort of engineers to win the argument is going to be low, especially when they are appealing to a non-technical project leader or CEO like Sundar Pichai. It just doesn't understand this stuff well enough for the people who are making that argument inside of Waymo and inside of Google to be like, no, all you other people who say that you want LiDAR, you're wrong. Shut up. we're not going to do that. We're going this way. And that is how Tesla has been able to execute on these technologies time and time again, is because Elon does have the ability to listen to all of the engineers making all of the different arguments inside of the company and actually identify from first principles which argument is the correct argument. And then once he identifies the correct argument, then he enforces from the top down that we are going to go in the path of the correct argument, regardless of how many people don't like it. And I mean, that's one of the reasons why I am deeply invested in Tesla and I have no Google shares.
I agree with you. It was a major risk. And at that time, nobody was agreeing with him. Very few would agree that he should take that risk, right? Not only vision only, but going neural net and AI early. And that's what he made the comment. He said that it's kind of like ironic. Google DeepMind was the leader. They were the main AI neural net people out
Google
there.
Google DeepMind is a separate thing than Waymo.
It was a separate thing.
Yep.
Than Waymo.
So the
but
two
you know
different things, yeah.
Google should have seen, what are you guys doing?
Yeah.
Because they're investing in these guys. And he's like, this is so ironic, right? You guys were the leaders.
I bet you if Sundar would like pull in someone like Demis and ask him,
yes, he would have said.
Demis would agree that the neural nets and vision can do it. But is Sundar going to listen to that?
Yeah, that was back then. And Demis, you're talking about, was the founder, CEO of DeepMind that they bought. Okay, so very interesting. Good points. It's really Elon that made that bet. And it's looking like it was the right thing. Of course, it is the right thing, but it just took to today. Waymo is currently providing an average of 35,700 paid Robotaxi trips per day. That's a lot. That's a good number. But if we calculate what we think Tesla will do, and again, first day is going to be different than 1 week, a month, 3 months. They're going to dip toes. They're going to take their time. But eventually, it'll be quickly surpassing this. So paid weekly driverless rides over time. You can see how it took Waymo. Very slow, even as early as 2024, they were really last year. They really just the last several quarters, they go, okay, we're going to start to pump this up now. That's just to see that the jump here really was in just the last year. Just last year, 1 year worth of, okay, let's go with weekly rides. So Alphabet was Sundar, CEO, Google was interviewed, or he was part of his call. Waymo may offer robotaxis for personal ownership in the future. Pichai said on a post-earnings conference call, did not provide a timeline or any details on how it plans to sell Waymo vehicles beyond saying there's future of optionality for personal ownership. I don't know how that's possible when it still costs them over 100,000 and they can't even sell 700. If this year they start selling thousands and they have a partnership with some sort of company that's going to produce this as scaled, then okay, great. And of course, Elon himself, played this video of Tesla owners, and he said Tesla owners will be able to have their ability to turn their cars into robotaxis. He said second half of next year that you'll be able to add your car to the Tesla network, and then you will earn money. Well, Elon tweeted this yesterday: your Tesla car will earn you money. So still the plan.
It's still the plan, and I think it's going to be an important part of the plan. I don't expect for Tesla owners to be able to participate in the ride-hail network very early. Like at first, Tesla really just needs to take all the risk themselves, of course, their own insurance, really work out the kinks in providing this ride-hail service at scale and high quality. Because each of those are independent axes, and you may be able to provide a high quality service at 100,000 rides per week. But then when you go to 1 million rides per week, that's an order of magnitude more rides. Can you actually maintain that level of quality as you scale up to those crazy types of numbers? And so it's going to take some time, I think, for them to be able to work all of that out. But once they've got the blueprint down, then they can copy and paste and start moving to more cities. And then I think they will want to bring in the customer-owned vehicles as well, because it helps them scale out much faster. So on that, it'll start with just Tesla-owned vehicles. Then I think there will be a similar process where they're going to try in a jurisdiction, maybe it'll be Austin, or maybe it'll be San Francisco or Palo Alto or whatever, where they do add customer vehicles as well. And then they've got to go through that same process of debugging it, making sure that, everything works for the owners and the company and the financials and everything, and that the service is high quality, and do all of that work. And then that will once again start to expand across the rest of the country as well.
And I think it's a good point to make that it's not the technology that's going to be the issue of switching to customer-owned cars. It's just like you described, the whole
logistics system. Yes.
Logistics, because they're using the same Model Ys. And that's the part that's kind of mind-blowing. The same Model Ys that we buy from the factory that we're now driving on the streets is what they're using for this Austin. I had assumed that they might put AI5 in there, maybe add a front camera, maybe, I don't know.
It's not impossible that they will be shipping with AI5, but they may not be.
Yeah, so the words that they used was, it's the same car, but it could be, yes.
Yeah, the same car with an updated computer. We'll see.
Right. Okay, so let's take a look at how FSD is performing. And it seems to be doing very well. In China, we know that they've been putting it to the ringer. It's crazy, the kind of demos that they've been doing. And so a couple points here. One is you've got, Tesla FSD Extreme. Okay, this guy put no headlights. They decided, let's check it out. What happens if I turn off the headlights and drive in the dark, see what his car would do. It is kind of interesting though that I'm going to turn it down a little bit. Somebody said the question, why didn't the car turn on the headlights?
Yeah, it's hard to say, because this is a very odd situation, and not having tried to replicate it myself, the fact that it is giving him the alert on the screen the whole time, and then it looks like they're emulating a smartphone on the computer there that is connected to the cameras of the car. So I assume they're running the Tesla app on that computer in an emulation mode. I could be wrong there, but they're trying to see what it is that the car sees, and you can see how much it can see is very impressive compared to how dark it is. Now, part of that's going to be exposure, because the camera in the car needs to be exposed for the light that's coming from those screens, and specifically that white screen on the right. So,
listen to him right here.
To see. Yeah, the car stops right there and then decides, hey, I can actually do this, and it keeps going.
He gets very excited at the end there.
It's just very impressive how the way that Tesla's able to do this is because they have started using the direct photon count with their cameras, and it gives those cameras the ability to operate in a wider range of scenarios than human eyes can, and that is just a very impressive piece of capability that it shows you. Yes, it is cameras and it is neural nets, but the fact that we have cameras all around the car, there are 8 or 9, depending on what we do with a front bumper cam. There are enough cameras all around the cars where it can see in 360 view all the time, and it pays attention perfectly all the time. Those two things, and then hey, maybe we can actually see better with better cameras than human eyes. The combination of all those things are going to give this superhuman driving capabilities.
So that was fun. I like to listen to them, and you listen to their excitement. Yeah. The excitement that they say. So here's another example. Can FSD interpret traffic police gestures? Since FSD yields to pedestrians and scooters at intersections, it's difficult to confirm if it stops and proceeds solely based on the police gestures. Let's take a look at what this guy does.
So nervous. At the busy intersections, there was the hat-wearing master's uncle directing. He signaled me to stop. FST stopped immediately, and then he signaled me to go. FST immediately went again. Now there's no doubt, right? He can understand the newcomer's gestures. Isn't that awesome? Isn't that awesome? Isn't that awesome?
Isn't that awesome?
Yeah. Sure. So did he understand the gestures? Maybe, maybe not. It was also blocked, and then it was clear. So I don't know that I have that high of confidence that it understands
Sure.
gestures, but also I don't think that there's any reason to believe that it can't understand gestures because it's been trained on lots of video of people making those
It's
types of gestures
pedestrian
and humans
intent.
responding to it.
Mhm.
Yeah. And so I think that more than likely it is responding to those gestures.
Yeah,
We can't say
it
for
is.
sure, but
Yeah.
that is definitely the most likely scenario. And
Yeah.
this is something that, especially as Tesla is getting close to launching the Robotaxi service in June, those are corner cases that have to be solved really before you start
Mhm.
exposing a Robotaxi ride hail service to those types of scenarios in the real world.
Yep. Ashok Swami has said that that's what the goal was to train on pedestrian intent. If the pedestrian turns around, car knows, and I'll keep going forward. If the pedestrian looks like they're about to step in, it does that in the same way, like the hand gestures. So I have no doubt it's being worked on. This is an example that you need neural nets and vision to be able to interpret these things, not just LiDAR alone.
Yeah, like how's LiDAR going to know what the policeman or construction worker or firefighter who's directing traffic around, or even just, someone who's directing traffic in a parking lot? How is LiDAR going to help you know what to do in that situation?
Let's take a look at this guy is an intelligent driving expert. So he's a FSD guy, autonomous driving expert named Rocky Liu. He's been testing this for over, years. He's recently retested the 5 top systems that are publicly available in China. He didn't name each brand. He just called them, vendor A, vendor B. He didn't want to name names, but you can see the difference. As a known industry advocate, he doesn't want to hurt anyone's feelings. Still, you can easily tell that vendor A is Tesla, vendor B to E is anyone's guess among Xiaopeng, Li Auto, Momenta, Huawei, based on system behaviors and nuances. So here's what he said. Vendor A remains firmly in the lead. Any minor issues are localization related rather than systemic. There's no safety concern, and the ride experience is virtually flawless. Defensive behaviors and recovery maneuvers are exceptionally natural. It sees far, reacts quickly, and performs with a level of human likeness that actually surpasses human drivers. The approach is elegantly simple, so refined that the software becomes almost invisible. Well, that vendor A sounds exactly like what Tesla. Vendor B, the latest version shows clear improvements in safety, though at the cost of some user experience. It offers the smoothest integration of lateral and longitudinal control among all tested, and its human-like behavior is second only to A. The main regression appears in interactions with electric scooters. The system now applies noticeable, though not uncomfortable, light braking more often. However, due to limitations in classic control strategies, dynamic object detection prediction aren't always accurate, occasionally causing it to stop unnecessarily for stationary scooters. Appears to be reduced emphasis on LiDAR input. So this is the thing where they're switching from LiDAR to more neural net. Neural net needs to understand that that's first of all, an object, but what is it doing? Is it parked or not parked? These are kind of brains. Mm-hmm.
Well, and the fact that it's not LiDAR, or that they say that it uses LiDAR there, eliminates the possibility that B is Tesla if people are, trying to say, hey, Tesla's not the
good point.
player.
Yeah, good point. C and D, 2 are technically and functionally similar. Both offer, smoothness, slightly overall. C seems to have stricter constraints, blah, 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 blah. And then E, despite one panic takeover incident, understandable given the extreme scenario, it generally maintains a strong sense of safety thanks to its heavy reliance on LiDAR. Okay, so that's it. Vendor A sets the benchmark, should be the primary reference point for industry professionals. Whether it's network-based control or end-to-end models, and whether perception is vision-based or LiDAR, there's little practical difference except in edge cases. Okay, interesting. Compute is critical.
I wonder if edge cases matter. Do you think edge cases matter, Herbert?
Yes, it does. Good point. Compute, that's what I like. Compute is critical. Higher compute enables greater perception range and faster response time, which are the foundation of both safety and driving smoothness. That's what matters. All right, so that's his points. There we go. So there we go. We did a deep dive comparing Waymo and Tesla, and literally a month from now, we're going to see the first days of Tesla, and let's cross our fingers.
Yeah, I can't wait to hear what the new cope is going to be after Tesla does in fact offer paid robotaxi rides, and then a few months from then, when they actually offer more paid robotaxi rides than Waymo, what will the new cope be then?
And it won't take how many years, and it won't take a year, right? We'll get to this level pretty quickly. It's going to be slow, and then all of a sudden,
Farzad had
boom.
put out a poll on, what people thought was going to be the timeline when Tesla actually surpasses the number of paid robotaxi rides that Waymo has offered. And it seemed to me when I looked at it, like the over-under line was somewhere around the end of Q1 in 2026, which I think is an interesting over-under line. I think you have a lot of people who would take the over, but quite a few people who would take the under on that as well. And that's just over 12 months from now.
Yep.
Tesla could be offering more robotaxi rides than Waymo has ever offered in their history.
I think it's going to be before that. Okay, we'll see. They're going to take it very, very slow for several months, but then once they decide to, they can turn it on and beat that when they decide to. So, okay, thank you so much, Hans. Follow him on his YouTube channel and his X account, Hans C. Nelson. Thanks, everybody. Bye. I've created a website that is the most comprehensive resource for the Tesla investor. Please check it out. Simply go to my website at herbertong.com.